Have you ever felt like you're just an option in a relationship? That unsettling feeling when your efforts go unnoticed and your presence feels undervalued? It's exhausting and disheartening. So you decide to do something bold. You step back, creating space. You're not trying to manipulate or play games. Instead, you're protecting your peace and prioritizing your personal growth. And then something unexpected happens. They come back. Suddenly they're texting, calling, and craving your attention. What changed? Why now? This isn't about bending over backward to make someone realize your worth. It's about using distance as a way to rediscover yourself and let others see what they've been taking for granted. By embracing self-sufficiency, building confidence, and creating boundaries, you're not just improving your relationships, you're transforming your life. In today's video, we'll uncover 7 reasons why stepping back makes them realize your value, all grounded in the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. You'll learn how to reclaim your power, protect your energy, and grow into the best version of yourself. Have you ever experienced this shift? Have you noticed how distance changes dynamics? Let us know in the comments below. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand why they come back, but also discover how to keep thriving, whether they return or not. Let's dive in. 1. He realizes what he's lost. When you decide to step back from a relationship where your presence feels unappreciated, something profound happens. You create a void. This absence doesn't just take away your physical presence, it takes away the emotional depth, the support, and the energy you once offered. It forces him to confront a life where your unique value no longer exists. Suddenly, he notices the little things he used to overlook. The late-night conversations, the way you listened when no one else did, or how your advice guided him through challenges. When you were always there, he might have assumed your presence was a given, something he didn't need to work for. But now, in your absence, the contrast becomes stark. His life feels quieter, emptier, and less vibrant. The lack of your warmth and understanding creates a discomfort he can't ignore. You may even seek out new connections, but these interactions often fall short. The depth, the shared memories, and the unspoken understanding that defined your relationship are irreplaceable. This realization doesn't happen overnight. At first, he might dismiss your absence, believing it's temporary. But as time passes, he starts to feel the weight of what he lost. The realization grows stronger with each passing day, and it's rooted in something undeniable. Your value is unique. For many women, this scenario feels painfully familiar. You give endlessly, offering your time, energy, and love, only to feel taken for granted. When you finally pull back, it can feel both liberating and unsettling. The decision to step away is never easy, but it's often necessary. It's not about punishing him or creating drama, it's about protecting your peace and rediscovering your worth. Take a moment to reflect. How much of yourself have you given to someone who didn't fully appreciate it? Perhaps you've been the one always reaching out, always fixing problems, always there to offer support. When you step back, you're reclaiming your time and energy. You're allowing yourself to grow and thrive in ways that don't depend on anyone else's recognition. One woman shared how she found herself in this exact situation. She had been the cornerstone of her partner's life, the person he turned to in every crisis. Yet, she felt invisible, her efforts unnoticed. After years of feeling drained, she chose to step back. At first, the silence was deafening, but as she focused on herself, taking up new hobbies, strengthening her career, and nurturing friendships, something unexpected happened. He reached out, apologetic and reflective, admitting he hadn't realized how much she contributed to his life until she was gone. This shift isn't just about him, it's about you embracing your own value. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control how others perceive or value us, but we can control how we respond. The Stoics remind us to focus on what we can control: our actions, our growth, and our emotional resilience. By stepping back, you're not only giving him the space to reflect, but you're also allowing yourself the opportunity to reconnect with your true self. The wisdom of Stoicism lies in its practicality. Instead of dwelling on what you can't change, it encourages you to channel your energy into what you can. This means taking control of your time, nurturing your passions, and building a life that fulfills you. When you focus on your growth, you create a sense of self-sufficiency that is magnetic. You're no longer seeking validation from someone who didn't fully see your worth. If you're navigating this situation, ask yourself, what steps can you take today to prioritize your growth and happiness? It might be as simple as journaling your thoughts, setting boundaries in your relationships, or dedicating time to a personal goal. Each small step builds momentum, and as you grow, your absence speaks volumes. For him, the lesson is unavoidable. As you flourish, the void left by your absence becomes a mirror, reflecting what he overlooked. It's not just the loss of your presence, it's the realization of what you represented. You were the steady hand, the empathetic ear, the unwavering support. And now, he must face the reality that he may never find that again. To women watching this, let this be your strength. Your worth doesn't diminish because someone failed to see it. When you pull back, you're not just creating distance, you're creating a boundary that protects your peace and honors your value. And in doing so, you allow others to recognize the true depth of what they've lost. Have you ever experienced a moment where someone realized your value only after you stepped away? Share your story in the comments below. Your journey could inspire someone else to reclaim their worth and step into their power, too. He's shocked by your growth. Growth has a way of catching people off guard, especially those who never expected you to change. When you step back from a relationship and shift your focus inward, the transformation becomes undeniable. Your confidence grows stronger, your interests expand, and your presence commands a new kind of respect. For someone who once thought they had you figured out, this change is nothing short of shocking. Imagine a woman who was once timid and hesitant, always deferring to her partner's opinions. After stepping away, she takes control of her life. She starts attending fitness classes, discovers a passion for photography, and becomes more assertive in her career. When her ex sees her again, he hardly recognizes the confident, vibrant person standing before him. This version of her is bold, independent, and full of potential. A version he never anticipated. It's not just the visible changes that surprise him. It's the subtle shifts too. The way you carry yourself, the sparkle in your eyes when you talk about your new passions, and the calm confidence in your voice when you express your opinions. These changes disrupt the expectations he held about you. You might have assumed you'd stay the same, locked in a routine that revolved around him, but your growth challenges those assumptions, forcing him to see you in a completely new light. For many women, this journey begins with the decision to prioritize themselves. It's not an act of revenge, but an act of self-respect. By focusing on your own development, you reclaim the parts of yourself that might have been neglected in a one-sided relationship. This transformation isn't about proving anything to him. It's about proving to yourself that you are capable of thriving, independent of anyone else's validation. From a Stoic perspective, this growth aligns perfectly with the philosophy's emphasis on self-improvement. Stoicism teaches that the pursuit of excellence, or arete, is a fundamental part of living a fulfilling life. It encourages you to focus on what you can control, your actions, choices, and mindset, and let go of the need for external validation. One woman shared her story of transformation after stepping away from a draining relationship. She used the newfound time to set goals, like running a marathon and earning a certification in her field. At first, her ex ignored her progress, believing it was just a phase. But when he saw her social media posts full of achievements and moments of joy, he couldn't help but feel intrigued. The person she had become was magnetic, someone he hadn't appreciated when she was by his side. This kind of growth isn't about creating jealousy. It's about embodying the Stoic principle of resilience and adaptability. Life is full of challenges, and how you respond defines your character. Instead of dwelling on the loss, you build something greater, a version of yourself that is thriving and whole. If you're in the process of rediscovering yourself, think about areas of your life where you felt stagnant. Maybe it's your career, a neglected hobby, or your physical health. Pick one area and dedicate time to it every day. Even small steps like signing up for a class or setting a daily goal can lead to significant changes over time. When you invest in yourself, your growth becomes a source of strength. You're no longer dependent on others to feel valued because your progress speaks for itself. And when he notices the changes in you, he'll feel a mix of admiration and regret. regret for underestimating you, and admiration for the person you've become. There's an undeniable power in personal transformation. It shifts the dynamic in any relationship. Suddenly, you're not someone who can be taken for granted. You're someone who has proven that life goes on and thrives without needing anyone to complete you. This new version of you is intriguing, not because you've changed for him, but because you've changed for yourself. Stoicism reminds us that true power lies in mastering ourselves. Your growth isn't about making someone else feel a certain way. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, regardless of their reaction. When you embrace this mindset, you become unstoppable. Your energy becomes magnetic, drawing people in without you needing to chase them. Have you experienced this shift in yourself? What changes have you made that made others take notice? Share your journey in the comments and inspire others to step into their power. Your transformation isn't just about surprising others, it's about elevating yourself to new heights. By breaking free from old expectations and prioritizing your growth, you become someone worth admiring, not because of what you've lost, but because of what you've gained. 3. He admires your self-sufficiency. There is something undeniably magnetic about a person who thrives on their own terms. When you live well without him, it sends a clear message. You are independent, confident, and perfectly capable of finding happiness within yourself. This kind of self-sufficiency isn't just empowering, it's transformative. It reshapes how others perceive you and elevates the energy you bring into every room. Imagine this: you've always been the one who depended on his opinions or approval to feel validated. But after taking a step back, you start to see yourself differently. You realize that your value doesn't come from someone else's recognition. It comes from how you live, what you create, and how you navigate life on your own terms. You handle challenges without leaning on him for support, pursue passions that reignite your spark, and learn to appreciate your own company. This shift doesn't just surprise him, it compels him to admire you in ways he never did before. When someone sees you thriving independently, it highlights a strength they may have overlooked. You're no longer seeking validation or approval. Instead, you radiate quiet confidence. This kind of assurance stems from knowing your worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. For him, watching you live with such freedom can be humbling. It forces him to acknowledge that you're not bound by his presence or attention. Many women find themselves stuck in patterns of seeking validation. It's a cycle that often feels impossible to break. You might ask yourself, what will he think if I don't call? Or will he notice if I stop trying so hard? These questions reflect a deeper fear that without his acceptance, your worth might diminish. But when you decide to stop chasing his validation and instead focus on your growth, you unlock a new level of self-respect and power. One woman shared how this played out in her life. After years of being the one who always compromised, she decided to reclaim her independence. She enrolled in a dance class she'd always wanted to try, started taking solo trips, and even worked toward a promotion at her job. For the first time in years, she wasn't asking anyone for permission to enjoy her life. The impact was undeniable. Her newfound confidence was so infectious that her partner couldn't help but notice. This self-sufficiency is a core tenet of Stoicism. The Stoics remind us that external validation is fleeting, but the strength we cultivate within is unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that our happiness should never be contingent on the opinions of others. By living authentically and pursuing what fulfills you, you free yourself from the need to seek approval. If you're wondering how to embrace this mindset, start by identifying areas where you've been overly dependent on others. Are there decisions you delay because you're worried about what he might think? Are there activities you avoid because you don't want to do them alone? Challenge yourself to take small, intentional steps toward independence. Maybe it's as simple as trying a new hobby, dining alone at a favorite restaurant, or tackling a personal goal you've put off for too long. When you prioritize your happiness and growth, it creates a natural ripple effect. Others begin to see you differently, not as someone who needs reassurance, but as someone who exudes quiet strength. This shift changes the dynamics in any relationship. Where there was once dependency, there's now balance. For him, This transformation can be both inspiring and unsettling. He starts to realize that your independence isn't just about living without him, it's about living fully, regardless of whether he's in the picture or not. This realization often sparks a sense of admiration, even envy. He may find himself drawn to the energy of someone who isn't tethered to his opinions or approval. The beauty of self-sufficiency lies in the freedom it gives you. You're no longer living under the weight of someone else's expectations. Instead, you're carving out a life that aligns with your values and desires. This freedom doesn't just make you more confident, it makes you more attractive. People are naturally drawn to those who embody independence and authenticity. Have you ever felt this shift within yourself? The moment you stopped seeking someone's approval and found peace in your own company? Share your experience in the comments below. Declaring your strength can inspire others to reclaim their independence too. Living with self-sufficiency isn't about shutting people out or proving a point. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone diminish it. When you step into this mindset, you don't just transform your relationships, you transform yourself. And when he admires the person you've become, it's not because you changed for him. It's because you changed for yourself. 4. He's drawn to your emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is one of the most powerful and underrated traits you can develop. It's the ability to stay calm, steady, and composed no matter what life throws your way. This kind of strength doesn't just help you navigate challenges, it transforms how others see you. For him, your emotional resilience becomes a source of admiration and intrigue. He begins to see you not as someone dependent on external validation, but as a pillar of strength who can stand tall in any storm. When you're faced with difficult situations, whether it's heartbreak, disappointment, or conflict, how you respond says everything about your character. Imagine a moment when someone expected you to lash out in anger or crumble under pressure. Instead, you chose to stay composed, thoughtful, and in control. That choice, though it might feel small at the time, sends a clear message: you are not easily swayed by circumstances. In relationships, this resilience can shift dynamics entirely. Let's say you've experienced the end of a long-term relationship. For many, the initial reaction might be to lash out, beg for answers, or let emotions spiral out of control. But when you take a different approach, choosing self-reflection, calmness, and growth, it changes everything. By focusing inward, you build emotional stability that not only benefits you, but leaves a lasting impression on those around you. Picture this. A woman who had always been emotionally reactive in her relationship decided to step back after a painful breakup. Instead of letting her emotions dictate her actions, she channeled her energy into self-improvement. She started practicing mindfulness, going for daily runs, and spending time journaling about her feelings. Over time, her ability to process emotions in a healthy way grew stronger. Months later, when she crossed paths with her ex, he noticed a striking difference. She was calm, centered, and grounded, qualities that were undeniably magnetic. He couldn't help but feel drawn to her newfound stability. This transformation is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that everything is fine. Emotional resilience is about learning to process feelings without being controlled by them. It's about creating space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. This practice not only protects your peace, but also elevates how others perceive you. From a Stoic perspective, this kind of strength is central to living a fulfilling life. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This idea is timeless. When you master your emotions, you master your life. Building emotional resilience starts with awareness. The next time you face a difficult situation, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this reaction helping me move closer to the person I want to be? This small moment of reflection can make all the difference. Instead of reacting impulsively, you give yourself the opportunity to respond thoughtfully, aligning your actions with your values. Another way to strengthen resilience is by reframing challenges as opportunities. For example, if you've gone through a painful breakup, instead of focusing on the loss, focus on what you've gained: time to rediscover yourself, pursue passions, and create a life that excites you. When you approach setbacks with this mindset, you're not just enduring, you're evolving. Imagine a friend comes to you with their own struggles. They tell you about a breakup that left them feeling lost and unsure of themselves. You listen with empathy but also remind them of their strength. You encourage them to try new things, focus on their goals, and take small steps each day toward healing. Over time, as they rebuild their confidence, they become an inspiration to those around them. In your own life, you have the power to become that same source of strength. When you prioritize emotional growth, you set yourself apart. You show him, and anyone else watching, that you are not defined by your challenges, but by how you rise above them. This kind of resilience is rare, and it's something that people can't help but admire. For him, witnessing your emotional stability can be transformative. He might have assumed that a breakup or disagreement would leave you broken, but instead, it has made you stronger. This realization forces him to reevaluate the way he sees you. He begins to understand that your strength isn't just about staying calm, it's about thriving in the face of adversity. Have you ever experienced this shift in your own life? The moment when you chose to stay grounded and it changed everything? Share your story in the comments below. Declaring your growth can inspire others to harness their own emotional strength. When you live with emotional resilience, you're not just improving your own well-being, you're setting a standard for how others treat you. By refusing to let external circumstances dictate your peace, you create an aura of stability that people are naturally drawn to. It's not about proving anything to him or anyone else, it's about proving to yourself that you are capable of weathering life's storms with grace. This strength doesn't mean you won't feel pain or sadness. It means you've learned how to process those emotions in a healthy, productive way. You've developed tools, like mindfulness, journaling, or simply taking a pause before reacting that help you maintain control. And when he sees this, it's not just impressive, it's inspiring. Your emotional resilience isn't just a reflection of your strength, it's a reminder of your worth. By staying true to yourself and prioritizing your peace, you create a life that's full of clarity, purpose, and balance. Whether he returns or not, you're already winning, because you've chosen to live authentically, grounded in your own power. 5. He's intrigued by your unpredictability. Unpredictability has a way of drawing people in. When you break away from old patterns and step into a life full of richness and activity, you create a magnetic pull that others can't resist. For him, watching you embrace new experiences and live dynamically sparks curiosity. You're no longer the person he thought he knew, and that mystery makes him want to uncover what's changed. Imagine this: you used to share every detail of your life, from daily routines to future plans. But after stepping back, you focus on living fully for yourself. You start traveling, picking up new hobbies, and engaging with social circles he isn't part of. Instead of broadcasting everything on social media or constantly keeping him in the loop, you leave room for intrigue. Now he's left wondering what you're up to, who you're with, and what's driving this newfound excitement in your life. This shift doesn't just catch him off guard, it challenges his assumptions about you. Perhaps he thought he had you figured out, believing you'd always be predictable, always available. But unpredictability disrupts that comfort. It introduces a sense of mystery, forcing him to acknowledge that there's more to you than he ever realized. For many women, the need to share everything can feel almost instinctive. You want him to know what's happening in your life, instead of hoping he'll appreciate or acknowledge it. But when you decide to keep some things for yourself, you reclaim a sense of autonomy. Your life becomes about your experiences, not about his approval or validation. One woman shared her journey of embracing unpredictability. After stepping back from her relationship, she stopped trying to keep her ex updated on her every move. Instead, she started attending cooking classes, planning solo trips, and pursuing a long-held interest in photography. Over time, she noticed something interesting. He began reaching out more, asking about her life, curious about the changes. But she didn't feel the need to explain. Her focus was on herself, and that shift created an allure he hadn't expected. This isn't about playing games or deliberately withholding information to manipulate him. It's about genuinely living a life that excites you. Stoic philosophy reminds us to focus on our own path, detached from the need for external validation. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This advice speaks to the importance of aligning your actions with your inner goals, not with others' expectations. When you stop living in a way that caters to someone else's assumptions, you create space for authentic growth. You're no longer tied to routines or behaviors that made you predictable. Instead, you're free to explore, evolve, and surprise even yourself. This unpredictability isn't just about being mysterious, it's about living a life so full and fulfilling that it naturally sparks curiosity in others. If you're wondering how to embrace this mindset, start by identifying areas where you've become too predictable. Do you always follow the same routine, go to the same places, or share the same type of content online? Shake things up. Try a new activity, join a different community, or challenge yourself to step outside your comfort zone. These changes don't have to be dramatic. Small shifts can make a big difference. For him, your unpredictability is more than just intriguing, it's inspiring. It forces him to see you in a new light as someone who is constantly evolving and creating. The life you're building isn't dependent on his presence or validation, and that independence makes you even more compelling. He begins to wonder, what else have I underestimated about her? This doesn't mean you should live your life solely to spark his curiosity. The beauty of unpredictability is that it's rooted in authenticity. When you're living authentically, pursuing passions, setting goals, and creating joy, you naturally become someone worth noticing. The changes you make are for yourself, not for him, and that genuine energy is what makes it so powerful. Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes from focusing on what's within your control. By choosing to live dynamically, you're not just creating a richer life for yourself, you're embodying the Stoic principle of self-mastery. This mindset allows you to break free from the expectations of others, creating a path that is uniquely your own. When he sees you thriving in this way, it's not just about the activities or the new experiences, it's about the energy you carry. You're no longer tied to predictable patterns or behaviors. Instead, you're living with purpose, and that kind of vibrancy is impossible to ignore. Unpredictability isn't about becoming unapproachable or distant. It's about becoming so engaged in your own life that others are naturally drawn to you. You don't have to explain every move or share every detail. By keeping some parts of your journey private, you create a sense of mystery that amplifies your presence. This is where the power of unpredictability lies. It shifts the dynamic, making him realize that he can no longer take your time, energy, or attention for granted. The life you're creating isn't just appealing, it's magnetic. And while his curiosity may bring him closer, your focus remains on continuing to grow and thrive, regardless of whether he's watching or not. 6. He respects your boundaries. Establishing clear boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to communicate your self-worth. It's not about pushing others away or building walls. It's about showing that you value yourself enough to define what is and isn't acceptable in your relationships. For him, seeing you enforce these boundaries isn't just eye-opening, it's a moment of reckoning. It forces him to respect you in ways he may not have before. When you create boundaries, you send a message that you're no longer willing to sacrifice your well-being to accommodate someone else's demands. Imagine a time when he expected you to drop everything for him, whether it was answering late-night calls or prioritizing his needs over your own. Now, you draw a line. You communicate clearly and confidently that your time, energy, and space are not to be taken for granted. This shift changes the dynamics. It makes him realize that you're not the same person who would bend over backward just to make him happy. One woman shared how setting boundaries transformed her relationship. For years, she allowed her partner to dictate their plans, often putting his preferences ahead of her own. After their relationship ended, she reflected on how one-sided their dynamic had become. Determined to change, she started saying no to situations that didn't align with her values. When he reached out again, suggesting they meet on his terms, she calmly explained her needs and proposed an alternative plan. This simple act of asserting herself left him speechless. He wasn't used to her standing her ground, and it made him rethink how he had approached their relationship. Boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about communicating your values and creating a framework for mutual respect. When he sees you enforce these boundaries, it shifts his perception of you. You're no longer someone who can be easily influenced or taken advantage of. You're someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to protect it. From a Stoic perspective, setting boundaries is an act of self-mastery. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of focusing on what is within your control and letting go of what isn't. Your boundaries represent your control over your actions, choices, and emotional energy. They allow you to maintain balance and peace, regardless of how others react. Epictetus reminds us, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Boundaries are a response, a way of defining what you will and won't tolerate. Creating and enforcing boundaries can feel challenging, especially if you're used to prioritizing others. But small steps can lead to big changes. Start by identifying areas in your life where you felt drained or taken for granted. Is it in how often you're available? In how you manage your time? Once you pinpoint these areas, practice saying no in a kind but firm manner. For example, if he asks for a favor that inconveniences you, respond with, "I'd love to help, but I need to prioritize my schedule right now." When you stand firm in your boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. For him, this moment is pivotal. He begins to understand that being part of your life comes with responsibilities, respecting your space, valuing your time, and meeting you halfway. It's no longer a one-sided dynamic where his needs always come first. Instead, it becomes a relationship built on mutual understanding and respect. Imagine a scenario where he tests your boundaries, perhaps by showing up unannounced or pushing for answers you're not ready to give. Instead of reacting with frustration or caving in, you respond calmly but assertively. "I appreciate your interest, but I need time to think about this." This response does more than set a boundary. It demonstrates emotional maturity and self-control. He's left with no choice but to respect your stance because you've made it clear that your well-being comes first. This shift isn't just about earning his respect. It's about building a healthier foundation for any relationship. Boundaries create clarity. They ensure that both parties understand what is expected and what is off-limits. For him, learning to respect these boundaries might be a new experience, but it's one that ultimately benefits both of you. Some may fear that setting boundaries will push someone away, but the opposite is often true. When you establish clear guidelines, you create a dynamic where respect can thrive. He may initially resist or test your limits, but over time, he'll recognize the value of your boundaries. They show that you're someone who won't settle for less than you deserve. Stoicism teaches us that our sense of self-worth shouldn't be tied to how others react. Whether he respects your boundaries or not, your decision to enforce them is a reflection of your inner strength. You're not setting limits to control his behavior. You're doing it to protect your peace and prioritize your growth. Boundaries are the foundation of a healthy relationship, not just with others, but with yourself. When he sees you honor these limits, it creates a shift in how he perceives you. He begins to understand that being in your life isn't a given. It's a privilege that requires effort and respect. And in that realization, he's likely to approach you with a newfound sense of appreciation. This isn't about creating distance for the sake of power. It's about fostering an environment where you can both grow and thrive. By prioritizing your boundaries, you set the tone for the kind of connection you want. A relationship built on mutual respect, understanding, and trust. Whether he rises to meet these expectations or not, you've already taken the most important step, valuing yourself enough to draw the line. 7. He fears losing you to someone else. Fear is a powerful motivator, and nothing stirs it more than the thought of losing something, or someone, irreplaceable. When he realizes that others see your value and are drawn to you, it creates a wave of anxiety he can't ignore. Suddenly, he's faced with the possibility that you might not be available forever. This fear compels him to act, pushing him to reevaluate his choices and his feelings about you. Imagine a scenario where you've stepped back and focused on your personal growth. As you begin to thrive, others naturally take notice. Whether it's admiration from new friends, compliments on social media, or the start of a new romantic connection, your life becomes a testament to your value. He sees this happening from the sidelines, and it hits him. Someone else could step in and appreciate you in ways he didn't. This realization is like a jolt, making him aware of how close he is to losing you forever. For many women, this shift happens when they choose to stop chasing validation. Instead of waiting for someone to notice their worth, they pour energy into themselves. A woman shared how, after giving her partner distance, she began exploring new hobbies, meeting new people, and sharing her journey online. Her posts, filled with positivity and newfound confidence, caught the attention of many, including her ex. He noticed the admiration she received and realized that her glow wasn't for him alone. It was something the world could see. This is the moment when he starts to fear losing you, not just because of others' interest, but because of what it represents: your independence and ability to move on. It forces him to confront his complacency, realizing that he may have taken you for granted. Fear can lead to two outcomes. He either retreats into regret or takes action to reconnect with you. From a Stoic perspective, this dynamic reflects a universal truth. People often fail to value what's readily available, only recognizing its significance when they stand to lose it. Stoicism teaches us to detach from the need for external validation and focus on cultivating our inner worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." By embracing change, you not only grow, but also allow others the space to reassess their priorities. If you find yourself in this situation, resist the urge to rush back when he starts to show interest again. This fear of losing you must come from a place of genuine realization, not manipulation. Instead, continue focusing on your journey, ensuring that your growth remains authentic and centered on your needs. To cultivate this energy, immerse yourself in activities that enrich your life. Join a community, travel to places you've always wanted to explore, or dedicate time to mastering a skill you've long admired. When you do this, you naturally radiate confidence and fulfillment, drawing others, including him, toward you. Fear of loss often triggers a sense of urgency. He may begin reaching out, expressing emotions he once suppressed, or even trying to reclaim his place in your life. For example, a woman recalled how her ex started sending long messages about how much he missed her, and how seeing her happy made him realize his mistakes. However, she didn't let his fear dictate her decisions. Instead, she maintained her boundaries, allowing him to show through actions, not just words, that he had truly changed. Stoicism reminds us that our happiness should never depend on someone else's feelings or actions. When he fears losing you, it's essential to remain grounded in your values and not let his panic disrupt your peace. Epictetus advised, "It is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." His fear doesn't mean you owe him a response. It's a reflection of his journey, not yours. If he's genuinely interested in reconnecting, his actions will align with his words. He'll demonstrate respect, effort, and a willingness to grow alongside you. But even then, your focus should remain on your well-being. You're not seeking validation from his regret or his renewed interest. You've already built a life that fulfills you. For him, seeing you thrive without him can be both humbling and transformative. It's a reminder that relationships are a privilege, not a guarantee. If he wants to return, he'll need to rise to meet your standards, not expect you to lower them. This dynamic doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. Whether it's friends, family, or colleagues, people often underestimate those who consistently give without demanding anything in return. When you step back and show that your presence is a choice, not an obligation, it shifts the balance of respect. To maintain this energy, stay committed to your growth. Build relationships with those who uplift you. Invest in activities that bring you joy, and never compromise your self-worth for the comfort of someone else. When he sees you thriving, not as a result of his absence but because of your determination, it redefines how he perceives you. Fear of losing you isn't the goal. It's a byproduct of your transformation. The real power lies in knowing that you're no longer waiting for someone to see your value. You've claimed it for yourself, and whether he rises to meet you or not, you've already won. As we draw to a close, it's important to reflect on the journey we've explored together. The space you create when you step back isn't just about absence, it's about transformation. You've learned that your growth, self-worth, and resilience are what truly matter, not someone else's recognition of them. The void you leave behind when you focus on yourself becomes a mirror, showing him the value he overlooked. But this isn't about him, it's about you, your strength, your evolution, and your ability to reclaim control of your own narrative. From the realization of your unique worth to the power of setting boundaries and embracing self-sufficiency, these lessons are more than insights. They're tools for building a life that aligns with your highest values. Stoicism teaches us that the only control we truly have is over ourselves, and in that understanding lies immense power. By focusing on your personal growth and emotional resilience, you create a magnetic force that naturally draws others to you while ensuring your happiness is never dependent on anyone else. Now, the challenge lies in applying these lessons to your daily life. Practice pausing before reacting. Reflect on how you spend your energy. Set boundaries without guilt, and nurture the relationships that bring value to your life. Every small step you take toward self-mastery strengthens your inner peace and helps you stay centered, no matter the circumstances. As you go forward, remember this: your worth is not determined by who returns to your life, but by the love and respect you give yourself. Share your journey in the comments below. Your story may inspire someone else to take their first step toward self-discovery. Let this be a reminder that your transformation is a gift, not just to yourself, but to the world.